Breaking news, breaking news. JLR investigates with the breaking news. Border migrant crisis, Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on our southern border in Texas. This is Eagle Pass, one of the hottest spots in the country where thousands upon thousands of people crossed across the Rio Grande into the United States illegally. Ground zero, Shelby Park. Let's talk, folks, because Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has been doing a lot down there in Texas to deter people from coming over. One, they took over Shelby Park. They set up wire. National Guard. They put National Guard patrolling the shorelines there. They've put these barriers in. Well, these you see them shipping containers. They also put like buoys in the middle of the Rio Grande to thwart people from coming over. They have shot pepper balls at the people, telling them to go back. But people still continue to cross. It's still going on. So Abbott gave a press conference yesterday. We're going to share because now he's coming up with new measures to thwart people from coming across the United States illegally. And this new measure is a border crossing billboard campaign. And these billboards are going to be put all in Central America and all through Mexico. And these billboards are going to have some very harsh words. Billboards in many different languages. And these people that are crossing in the United States illegally, they should see these billboards. And they're very, I'll just say they're very blunt. It's saying that bad things will happen to them if they cross into the United States illegally. And warning individuals, do not come in. Do not come in to the country illegally. So Abbott spoke, and he's taking the forefront of this border migrant crisis in the state of Texas. Abbott has continuously gone down to the border. Once again, when he speaks, he's going to be in Eagle Pass, a place that we went to on JLR Investigates, a place where this time last year was literally the peak time where Eagle Pass was getting 5,000 people a day crossing in. As you see, this is, people would be crossing in, they'd go right down the hill and cross the Rio Grande. And then once they cross, as you see here, they would be marched down to Shelby Park and processed by Border Patrol. Thousands and thousands and thousands, millions have crossed into the United States illegally in the last few years. And Texas is doing everything they can to stop people from crossing. Tom Homan has been down there meeting Abbott. He was just down there at Thanksgiving. They were handing out Thanksgiving meals to the National Guard troops and Texas State Police. You see, they patrol the waters. They're doing everything. The wire's up. The wire continues to go up. These drums. Now they're doing another strategy. And this strategy is taking it all the way down to the route where these people are coming from. Darien Gap, Central America, up through their trek through Mexico, because most of the people that are crossing in the United States illegally are facilitated, as we know, and some people might not know, by NGOs and organizations, Catholic Charities, American Red Cross, Annunciation House, different organizations, right? Mission Border Hope. There's a bunch of them giving these individuals maps, what to say, what not to say, safe havens, shelters on their way up. So Abbott speaks and he talks about these billboards. I'm going to play this news clip right here about what is going on, and then we'll get into Abbott.
Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced a new border security strategy today. He made the announcement in Eagle Pass, southeast of El Paso. It's a campaign to deter migrants making their way to the U.S.-Mexico border and prevent them from trying to cross the border.
And it's also to warn them about the dangers they could face if they enter the state illegally. ABC 7's Eddie Berto Perez has been following the story today and joins us live with the details. Eddie.
Good afternoon, Paul. Stephanie, Governor Greg Abbott announced billboards that are going to be in different parts of Central America and in northern Mexico border cities. With Texas, the billboards are in different languages such as Spanish, Russian, and Chinese, among others. And Paul, Stephanie, the billboards tell migrants about the dangers of traveling to the U.S. or crossing illegally. This one, for example, says, "Danger ahead. If you cross into Texas illegally, you will regret it forever." Or this one, "Your wife and daughter will pay for the trip with their bodies. Coyotes lie. Don't put your family at risk." The news conference happened in a ranch. One of the owners said they have burned trees they called rape trees, where migrant women have been sexually assaulted.
One asked families thinking about sending their kids here, how much did you pay to have your daughter raped? This is tough medicine. But we want no more rape trees in Texas. Do not make the dangerous trek to Texas.
And guys, Governor Abbott also said he plans to work with President-elect Trump and border Czar Tom Homan during the next federal administration. We'll explain how key Texas will be for the planned mass deportations. I'll have the details tonight on ABC 7 at 6. Paul?
All right, so that's a news clip there sharing this new strategy. Billboards. Very harsh words, right? The RAPE word was used on these billboards, telling people how much does it cost. It's wild. So we're going to listen to Abbott, folks. Abbott speaks a little bit, gives a press conference. Let's see what's going on. Let's see Texas's new strategy to stop illegal immigration. These are the billboards, and he'll explain what these billboards are.
Coming up. On each side of me. I want to thank everybody for being out here today. I am joined today by General Seltzer, by the Director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, Freeman Martin, by the Texas Border Czar, Mike Banks. by Rose Luna. She is the CEO of the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, and also by Martine and Kimberly Wall. This is Kim Wall right here. The Walls are the owners of the property on which we gather today. We gather in areas where they have burned down trees like the ashes that we see here. The ashes we see here are from trees they burned down. Trees where migrant women were being sexually assaulted by coyotes, gangs, and human traffickers. They are known as rape trees. We're here to expose the truth to immigrants who are thinking about coming here, the truth about the traffickers who assault so many of the women and children along the way. We are launching a new campaign to deter illegal immigration into Texas. Yesterday, we began putting up billboards, dozens of billboards, in Central America and in Mexico. They inform potential illegal immigrants about the reality of what will happen to them if they try to enter Texas illegally. These billboards, some of which you can see behind me, they tell the horror stories of human trafficking. One says many girls who try to migrate to Texas are kidnapped. Another sign says your wife and daughter will pay for their trip with their bodies. One asks families thinking about sending their kids here, how much did you pay to have your daughter raped? This is tough medicine. But we want no more rape trees in Texas. Do not make the dangerous trek to Texas. For migrants who are now already close to crossing the border illegally, we have billboards providing warning messages in Mexico. They are arrayed across Mexico, but especially along the northern border of Mexico, all the way from Matamoros to Juarez and many places in between. One says, stop. If you cross the border illegally into Texas, you will be jailed. Another warns, don't come to Texas illegally, you will be arrested. And know this, the Trump administration will prioritize for deportation illegal immigrants who have been arrested. To ensure that as many people as possible are aware of these warnings, these billboards are in several languages, including Spanish, Russian, Chinese, and Arabic. To keep illegal immigrants from entering into Texas, we have built walls and razor wire barriers and deployed buoys and container boxes. We have arrested thousands who got by those barriers. We will continue to aggressively arrest immigrants entering Texas illegally. We will work with the Trump administration to deport them. The message is, do not risk a dangerous trip just to be arrested and deported. Next, we will have Rosa Luna, the CEO of the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, speak to you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Rose Luna. I'm the CEO of the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. We are the statewide sexual assault coalition committed to ending sexual violence in our great state of Texas. First and foremost, our North Star is all survivors of sexual assault, regardless of circumstance. Unlike other states, in Texas, we have state-specific statistics. And according to these figures, 1 in 5 Texas men and 2 in 5 Texas women will experience sexual assault at some point in their lives. This prevalence is staggering, but those are the numbers that we know. Those are the numbers that we can grasp. Alternatively, and the reason why I'm here is there is a largely unspoken sexual assault crisis impacting women and children migrating to the Texas border. Acknowledging this issue and its profound impact on survivors is not just crucial, it's our responsibility. The anecdotes from women who have made this journey are heartbreaking. A few years ago, during a visit to an immigration facility in Williamson County, there was a long line of women that waited for me to finish my presentation so that they could share their harrowing accounts of sexual assault. It was gut-wrenching It was heartbreaking to know that I was the first person that they felt safe enough to share their story with. It was very painful. It was very raw. One of the quotes that seared in my brain is, one of them said, the very violence they were trying to escape is the violence that they experienced on the journey here. It's a reminder that there is harm and suffering in this journey. I think the reality is that the price of the journey is very high. It is important for us to recognize that, and it is vital for them to understand that. And most importantly, no one deserves to be raped. No one deserves to be stripped of their dignity under any circumstance. Survivors of sexual assault are not a population that seeks a spotlight, nor are the men, women, and children making decisions on whether or not to make the journey. We applaud the state in recognizing the silent crisis and for acknowledging and elevating this very serious yet hidden issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Kim Wall, the owner of the property on which we're located, but also a person who can share with you some harrowing stories that have occurred on this property.
Hello. We've had several rape trees and lots of women that have been found beaten and raped in front of our house, left to die in drainage ditches, where it makes you terrified to go outside of your own house and enjoy your own property. I know that my husband had found 3 different rape trees and he burnt them down so we didn't have to see them. And I don't know if he found more because he quit telling me all the things he found because we were scared. And it's scary when you can't go on your own property and you're told if you do, you have to carry a gun to protect yourself because you don't know if you'll be attacked by one of the men hiding in the brush. There's been numerous children that have been found, different illegals, and we found 3 people that were found murdered this last year on our property, and it's just scary. And we all want a better life for everybody.
Thank you. And that little girl?
The little girl.
The one that raped here.
Oh, the one that they found in front of the house?
Yeah.
She was raped by 12 different men and beaten, left to die. And we were told that we found many, many other ones. The railroad police has, and Border Patrol had also.
Thank you. I want to thank Kim and Martine for opening up the property, but more importantly for being able to share their story about the reality of what's happening on a daily basis, especially under the Biden administration with the open border policies that have led to so many sexual assaults, murders like what she talked about on this very property. It's a deadly situation, a horrific situation for those who are victims of sexual assault, a horror that we fully expect to end beginning in about a month when President Trump takes office and shuts down the border and restores safety and normalcy to an immigration process. I'll take a few questions.
Governor, I've got a question for you on this side, if you don't mind, sir. A lot of these efforts and renewed efforts seem to be physical, boots on the ground efforts. At what point do you think, in your role as governor, you can help affect actual policy out of Washington that comes in the way of law from the highest order?
So what Americans expect and what I want to ensure we deliver is making sure that we do accomplish one task first, and that is to stop illegal immigration into the United States, and my job is to stop it into the state of Texas. After we accomplish that goal, then we can move on to other goals, and it will be up to the Trump administration and those serving in Washington, D.C. to figure out a pathway forward. But I don't think any American has any appetite to make reforms in the system until we do 2 things. One is to stop the illegal immigration and show we're going to be able to continue stopping it so that the only immigration that occurs is legal immigration.
Governor, you said last month that preparations were underway. You were with Tom Homan to have the necessary changes go into effect on day 1. Can you give specific examples of what changes are going to be made and what you're doing in preparing for that? Maybe the collaboration between the federal agencies and DPS and National Guard. We haven't had any specific examples of what will change.
So obviously, I don't have the ability to share with you precisely what the Trump administration is talking about. I can give you some top level things that Tom Homan, the borders are.
has talked about, and that is deportations will begin on day one. And one preparation for that is they need more ICE agents. They need more Border Patrol agents, and they will be working to administer those, but also to unleash Border Patrol agents as well as ICE agents to do their jobs. Very importantly, over the past 4 years, ICE and Border Patrol agents have been hindered in doing their job. Part of that doing that job is using the ICE agents to locate those who need to be deported and deport them. So you can expect, and I expect, deportations to be occurring very early in this administration. Second, I'm not even done answering this question yet. Second, there will be a massive expansion of border barriers put up. One thing that President Trump wants to achieve, that Tom Homan wants to achieve, and we must achieve in Texas, and that is to maintain the resistance. Remember this. This is a point that I made to and about President Biden repeatedly. There were 3 laws that predated even George W. Bush. A law that requires the president to deny illegal entry, a law that requires the president to detain anybody who does enter illegally, and a law that requires the president to build border barriers. Bush and Obama and Trump did all 3 of those. Biden did none of those 3. What Trump will do, he now knows exactly how to execute these duties in office, and from day one, he will execute all 3 of those duties. This guy, hold a second. This guy has had a question. I'll come back to you. Hold. The guy in blue, did you have a question? Say it again.
Do you think the family separation is okay for the country?
So I'll tell you what Tom Homan said. Tom Homan said, listen, there's no need for family separations because if there's a person in the family who is in the United States illegally, the Trump administration will deport them. And it's the family that gets to choose. The family gets to choose, are they going to remain together and all go back together? Or is the family going to make the decision that the family will have a separation of the family? That's a family choice, not a choice by the Trump administration.
Governor, we've seen the deterrence that you've had in the water, billboards now, but is Texas, and are you getting the legislature and the state ready to basically almost shoulder the burden of what seems to be a deportation movement that would go through Texas? Do you think Texas is going to be carrying most of this weight? Are we going to have most of the burden of it?
So Texas has, and we will continue to do whatever it takes to make sure that we gain control of the illegal immigration that's taking place in the state of Texas, and that means working hand in hand with the Trump administration to assist them in making sure that we close the border, secure the border, and aid them in the deportation process.
I'm not asking you to tip your hand, but can you tell us from some of these high levels if Texas is going to be the main player? Because there's Democratic governors in California, in Arizona, in New Mexico, but then you come to Texas, which has the biggest border, and there's a Republican governor, which is in lockdown.
Well, obviously because of the size of the state of Texas, because it's the most southern border state, we have 2/3 of the entire mileage between the United States and Mexico is the state of Texas. There's a lot of reasons why Texas will be playing a centerpiece role in closing the border and in the deportation process. However, this is not a Texas issue, and it's not even a Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California issue. This is an issue for all the states of the United States of America, and it's one of the reasons why Donald Trump was elected in the first place. So Donald Trump and Tom Homan and the entire Trump administration will be working in states all across the United States of America to make sure that if there are illegal immigrants being harbored anywhere, especially those who have committed a crime or pose a national security concern, those are the people that Tom Homan is going to go after first to make sure that we restore order and safety into our communities.
Governor, so what is this plan that you came today to announce? Is it just to display the ads between the border? Or what's the new plan?
The new plan is a deterrent to people who may be on their way to come across the border. Listen, there have been many stories in things that we're monitoring where in the last month before Donald Trump becomes the president, there are many people who may make a last gasp effort to try to cross the border. And our goal right now immediately is not only to discourage them from coming, but to help them understand the consequences when they come. The consequences are that the people coming here, they could be raped, they could be assaulted, they could be killed. But the consequences also are, if they do make it across, they will be arrested, they will be jailed, and they will be deported. It is senseless. It is futile for people to try to continue the trek to the United States of America, and especially to the state of Texas, and enter illegally, because you will face bad consequences along the way. And our goal is to stop people in their tracks where they are right now and have them stop making any further trek toward Texas or the United States of America.
We have time for two more, guys.
How much of this campaign cost the state, and do you think this is an effective use of funds when it comes to tackling the border?
Sure. I don't have the exact number with me. I think it's roughly about $100,000. Could be a little bit more than that. And every tool and strategy that we find and locate are effective strategies. Know what I'm about to tell you. And that is, there are a lot of organizations and people who are providing a contrary narrative to what we are saying today. There are the cartels, there are gangs, there are human traffickers, there's even maybe the government of Mexico, as well as non-governmental organizations that tell a completely different story and make it sound like it may be harmless going into the state of Texas. And we are trying to provide a pushback against that narrative and provide reality facts for immigrants thinking about coming here to save their lives, to save them from sexual assault, save them from being arrested, and let them know there are consequences if they take any further steps to come to the state of Texas.
Last question.
Governor, you mentioned border wall expansion. Does Texas intend to continue building its border wall? And secondly, yesterday your land commissioner, John Buckingham, offered Texas lands to store some of the bollards to the Trump administration. Have they responded and accepted, sir?
Well, so what the Trump administration is doing, they want to figure out the most cost-effective and strategic way to go about all this process. What the Trump administration knows is that Texas stands ready to assist them in any way. They know that we have the capability of building the wall maybe faster and cheaper than what they're able to do. We'd be more than happy to build the wall, assuming the federal government pays for it. But this is a time when you're going to see, unlike the last 4 years, you're going to see great collaboration and cooperation, so that we're going to be far more effective and be able to move far faster than ever before at securing the border.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
And
Interesting. A deterrent, a new deterrent. Abbott back at the border. Eagle Pass, ground zero.
thank you all. Have a good day.
We'll watch them leave, and then we'll have a further discussion. This is like Texas holding the line here, because Texas, if they come in through Texas, then they expand out into the United States all over the place. And as some of you might or might not know, lots of problems. Tren de Aragua. Majority of the Tren de Aragua members from this violent Venezuelan gang came up to the United States illegally through Texas, El Paso, or right across the border in New Mexico. But Texas, mostly Texas, Eagle Pass, El Paso, Brownsville, hot spots. So they went to a ranch right there on the border. I won't say the word, but RAPE trees. This is sick. It's bad, folks. These trees are where these Mexican or these cartels in Mexico, they do egregious things to females, and they put their trophy in the trees. Garments, undergarments. That's why you heard the word RAPE trees. It's sick. It's very, very sick. These are people that have to pay the cartel in order to get the cross. And it's not just money. It's they're selling their own bodies or forcing their own bodies. I'm not saying selling. Well, probably both. Scary time. So billboards up in Texas. You see a lot of the Department of Public Safety there, right? I saw some National Guards. I guess they have their guy, Seltzer. He's always with Abbott. Abbott has taken the forefront. And for credit for Abbott is people around him are informing him. He knows details. He knows details. He knows things. He knows what's going on. He's very aware of this situation. And I think he's very educated. I would say on this channel, a lot of you, through me and myself through you, we're pretty much like 80 to 90% of knowing what's going on here. There's still some unknowns that we do not know. But being boots on the ground and continuing to seeing the tactics, the hot spots, the methods, we always can learn something new. Would this work? First off, how much does this cost? Great question. Setting up billboards. Billboards ain't cheap. Put a billboard up in the, in your community. Citizens paying like $1,000 every 3 months for a billboard. Higher if you're in a very populated area. Billboards. But the question is, you're going to put these billboards up in Mexico and Central America. What makes them think that nobody's going to tear the billboards down once they're up? I mean, are they going to guard these billboards because cartel or the coyotes or whoever are going to see these billboards? They're going to just tear them down, right? You would think. Who protects the billboards? Who protects the billboards? But what they want to do is have some billboards or some deterrents to people like this before they even get to the stage where they have to cross. A lot are being misled. A lot are being duped and bamboozled and sold this American dream and conned out of their entire life savings to get to America. They're sold wrong ideas. This is the border. This is what we seen firsthand across the Rio Grande. The two bridges right there at Eagle Pass, right? One where people cross over for commercial traffic, trucks, cars, people, and then the other, the bridge where the train goes across. And in between there is that ground zero spot. Now, what happens is, folks, as we discussed, Texas is holding the line. But once these people cross in and get in, and if Border Patrol gets them first, they get to stay. They get processed by Border Patrol, given a court date, scatter off. Communities, Denver, Chicago, New York City, sanctuary cities. Now, we've been hearing a lot about Tren de Aragua. In Tren de Aragua, the violent Venezuelan gang, released their prisoners. Tren de Aragua has been heavy in Aurora, Denver, Chicago, and New York. But share something about Tren de Aragua while we're at it and while we're here. The feds in New York City, Tren de Aragua, most Tren de Aragua that cross the United States illegally are from that cross in here, Eagle Pass or El Paso, either or. The feds just busted and raided a Tren de Aragua gang house in New York City. Scary stuff. At Crotona Park. Tren de Aragua. A lot of people there, probably in this clip here, are Tren de Aragua. Maybe, maybe not. Or very bad actors. If Texas wouldn't stop of what they're doing, there would have been millions upon millions of people crossing in. You don't have a border, you don't have a country. I am 100% in agreement with that statement. If you don't have a border, you do not have a country. This is what you get. Thousands every day marching in, and going to a city near you. Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua. So I want to share a couple clips here with Homan, Tom Homan, the incoming border czar, and a report out of these Tren de Aragua safe house in New York City that got raided.
Border czar Tom Homan joins us now. Tom, first off, to what happened here in the Bronx, these gang members, not geniuses, still wearing their ankle monitors. Glad they did. Are you surprised?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised they weren't, under this administration, under the Trump administration, they wouldn't be in that hotel. They'd be locked up. And for anybody that was released, even under this administration, rules are clear. If you do something outside of your conditions of release, you can be immediately taken back into custody, even though you have an asylum claim. So I'm hoping things change in New York City. My meeting with Mayor Adams went really well. I think things are going to change. If he says what he said he's going to do, things are going to be a lot better in New York City very quickly.
I know you got to be able to get into the prisons like Rikers Island. And right now, you want to reopen those offices there. He says he's going to try. He's going to need a lawyer, I guess. It's not a matter of him just saying yes or no. So, one of these guys was arrested back in July for grand larceny. How do you commit grand larceny and get out?
Obviously, he was arrested in a sanctuary city. They don't care. Look, San Diego just passed a law saying, for instance, if you're illegally in the United States in San Diego County, you get arrested for rape. They're not going to call ICE. Think about that. I think any elected official anywhere in this country who doesn't want to get public safety threats out of their communities ought to resign their position, because their number one responsibility is protecting the communities. But this is just one of many, Brian, that's happened under this administration. Things are going to change January 20th. We got a great president. President Trump's going to come in. He's committed to enforcing the immigration law and locking up the worst of the worst first. He's already prioritized. I prioritize gang members, public safety threats. Right out of the gate, their number one priority, including Tren de Agua. They're in trouble because we're coming for them.
So, Tom, there's 1.5 million people in this country despite deportation orders. So those are people you're going to round up. They say there's between 11 and 22 illegal aliens in this country right now. But the ACLU has got a game plan. They have a game plan to counter your aggression, and they're going to pressure states not to cooperate with you, even if it means criminals in their midst. Do you have a game plan for their game plan?
We're going to do the job. They're not going to stop us. They can make it difficult. They can make it less efficient. They can make it dangerous. What they need to understand, and every sanctuary city needs to understand, we can arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. That's safe for the alien. It's safe for the officers. It's safe for the community. But when they knowingly release a public safety threat back in the community, it puts the community at risk. It puts our agents at risk. It puts the alien at risk. For God's sakes, we've been clear. We want to put public safety threats first. No one should be against removing public safety threats out of the community, especially if they're here illegally. I find it amazing every day that I hear this stuff, but they're not going to stop us. We're going to do this. You're not going to stop us. And I can't wait till Kristi Noem gets to her confirmation. She's going to be an outstanding secretary. With President Trump, her, myself, we'll get this done.
I hear you. Just your opinion now. Knowing that Biden is even worse than we thought, and the stories are probably going to be even worse where he's checked out. Certain days he didn't even show up. And you knew Mayorkas, and you know that Mayorkas knows how to do the job but chose not to. Whose agenda is this? Whose agenda? It actually cost them the House, the Senate, and the White House. Who is behind this?
We're going to find out, because we're going to look into all this stuff. We're going to look in why billions of dollars went to Joe's. We're going to look at why United Nations was funding some of the stuff down south. We're going to find out who's a part of this, of what they've done to our southern border. I think it's borderline treasonous what they've done to this country, and we need to have oversight investigations. I already talked to Mark Green, oversight chairman for the House of Homeland. There's going to be some accountability, Brian. You can count on that.
Right. Naxio says his senators are quietly meeting from both sides of the aisle about putting something together on the border and with immigration. So let's keep our fingers crossed that both sides are sincere. Tom Homan, thanks so much for getting the word out. Appreciate it. And
Nicaragua, the Venezuelan prison gang spreads its tentacles across New York City and the country at large. Feds have now busted another ring of these alleged gang members in the Bronx. They found them in an apartment and arrested 7 of them on December 5th. It was a joint raid with the NYPD and Homeland Security, and they were able to identify the group by tracing them to the apartment using an ankle monitor that had been administered federally to one of the individuals alleged to be a Tren de Aragua member. Now, we already know that Tren de Aragua, or TDA, has spread across New York City. It's recruited in the migrant shelters there, where it's also set up gun smuggling rings. It's created snatch and grab moped robbery gangs. It has a youth crew and is wreaking havoc across the city, even shooting an NYPD cop and assaulting others. Now, most of the 7 individuals who were caught in this apartment in the Bronx actually had significant rap sheets and warrants out for the arrests after they had committed, allegedly, multiple crimes in the United States after crossing the southern border illegally. One of them was actually caught crossing the northern border illegally into Canada and was deported from Canada into the United States. That alleged gang member, Jonecker Cardozo, had 4 busts from law enforcement within the United States before the raid. Most were in the Big Apple, while one was in Greenville, South Carolina. One of the other members of the gang that was caught in this apartment actually had crossed 2 different U.S. borders. He crossed into the United States illegally at the southern border, committed some crimes allegedly in the United States, and then made his way to the northern border, crossed into Canada, and the Canadian authorities caught him and kicked him back to the United States. One of the other members of the group had already been ordered deported by an immigration judge, but because these individuals are from Venezuela and the Maduro regime refuses to accept deportation flights and provide the necessary documentation to ICE to allow them to carry out deportations, these Venezuelan gangbangers are stuck in limbo in the United States. That's one of the reasons they've been able to grow and thrive here just within a couple of years of arriving at the southern border. And they've been able to get past federal vetting procedures when doing so. The migrants know not to get tattooed as they're crossing into the United States. And the only way that federal authorities really know, sources say, that these are gang members is if they, quote, self-admit.
For more stories like these, be sure to subscribe to the New York Post right here on YouTube.
All right, so let's talk a minute. Tren de Aragua, New York City. As you heard, and that was a good New York Post reporter. Her name's Jenny. She does a lot of border stuff. She's pretty on point when it comes to this topic. And some crossed in illegally through the southern border here, Texas, while others crossed into the northern border. We're going to talk here about the northern border. But before we talk about the northern border, well, first, yeah, we're going to do the northern border. And then we're going to play another clip with Eric Adams working with Tom Homan. But I want to also stress, as much as Texas here is securing their southern border, and they're doing a good job, and I think they're going to do a fantastic, wonderful job moving forward. I think everyone is on the same page here. And when everyone is on the same page, you make magic. Things happen. Things happen. You got Homan already down there. Kristi, Noem already down there. Abbott and Trump are cool. Everyone, it seems like they're on the same page. I do believe the courts are all going to rule in favor of this administration in Texas. At the end of the day, regardless if you get some district judges that might shoot it down and say it's unconstitutional, whatever, they'll appeal it. It'll go up the chain of command. Yeah, it might be some sort of, little resistance, like Homan said, but they're going to win. They're going to win what they're doing. I really have faith and believe in this, that this border is going to be secure, particularly in Texas. Now, California is a different story. I'm not so sure about California, particularly what's happening in San Diego that created these new safe havens for migrants in San Diego. We'll talk about that on another live. I think people are going to cross in through San Isidro, Jacumba, California, San Diego, come up through and cross in that way. Arizona, we don't know yet, but I feel like Arizona's definitely going to be on board down the line. It's just a matter of Katie Hobbs, if she gets removed or what happens there. New Mexico, very desert-like, but people do cross into New Mexico, Santa Teresa, Sunland Park. Very desert-like, but you can get there and you cross, and we've seen it ourselves. But the northern border, a lot of these Tren de Araguas and people that are the violent extremists of the migrants are crossing over into Canada. They're going to Canada and crossing over to the northern border. Now, why they can do that is because between Mexico and Canada, they got no visa laws, and it's very easy to jump on a plane from Mexico, go up to Montreal or go up to Toronto and make that trek to the border and cross right through the northern border. Swanton sector, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, they're coming in. They're at an all-time high. All-time high. So Homan, the incoming border czar, I want to share, he's saying that he's eyeing Canada next and talking about Canada and the northern border because that needs attention too. Yeah, there's the southern border here, good what's Texas doing, but you also got to look at the northern border. We saw people cross in. Let's play Homan here.
So will Canada's plan resonate with the incoming Trump administration? Joining us now live in a Canadian exclusive is the incoming president's border czar, Tom Homan. Mr. Homan, a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to welcome you to our program. Thank you for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
My understanding is, and we heard one minister reference it, that you've spoken to two of our federal government's ministers about a border plan that they presented this week. In your view, Mr. Homan, does that plan address the concerns President Trump has about the border with Canada?
I don't know yet. We had a very general conversation on both our countries' concern on cross-border crime, right? And we're certainly concerned about the number of aliens coming across the northern border coming into the United States from special interest countries like India, Pakistan, Turkey, and such. Border numbers on our northern border are up 600% from the previous administration. So we got a lot of issues on the northern border. So we talked about that, and they said they found some money to invest in border security and technology, and that we working together with your border security force and RCMP, but we haven't gotten the specifics yet. We agreed to meet in the next few days to talk about specifics, how we're going to make this work. I also committed to them that we're equally concerned about cross-border crime into Canada, and the secure border is going to help both countries. So one of the things I mentioned to them, I think Canada's immigration laws are too lax. It's pretty easy to get into Canada. Not a lot of not a lot of screening is done, not compared to the United States. I'm talking about those who come in just to get to Canada, transit to the United States. I think they need to be screened better before we let them in. Of course, that's up to Canada to change those rules. But I am grateful they're coming to the table to talk about border security, because the northern border is a huge national security risk, just because of the types of population that's coming through.
So let me unpack a little bit of that, if you don't mind, and just start off actually with a more general question. As you mentioned, the conversation was very general. Would you classify or qualify the conversations going on with Canada as open? Are the lines of communication good? Is there goodwill, in your view, on both sides to reach an agreement that would help Canada avoid the application of those tariffs?
Yes, I think the conversation was very positive. Again, we didn't get into specifics. Specifics are going to take planning. But they came to the table. I came to the table with them, and the conversation was very good. I'm optimistic that we're going to secure the border together, both nations together. I'm very optimistic that we're going to reduce cross-border crime, in both countries. So I'm looking forward to getting the specifics and having our border forces work very closely with Canadian border forces to secure that border. And by securing the border, saving lives, because there's been a lot of deaths on the northern border, especially in the wintertime. We're approaching winter. Already winter up there. I was just up there last week, and we already got a lot of snow. But we need to get to the table quickly and help prevent the massive amounts of death that have occurred on the northern border the last few years. So great conversation. I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to come out with a plan that's going to work for both countries. I think we're going to come with a plan that President Trump would be happy with.
In your view, is the threat that President Trump levied to apply those tariffs focused on border security? Is it about border security ultimately? Like, that's what he said in the original social media post, but some of the comments since have involved other things around trade. Do you think if Canada can, satisfy your administration's concerns around the border, that we can avoid the application of those tariffs?
Look, I can't speak for the president, but I can tell you that his number one concern is border security, because border security is national security. any country, Canada or the United States, we can't have strong national security if we don't have border security. We didn't know who's coming in, what's coming in, where it's coming in, why it's coming in. To have strong national security, President's number one issue during the campaign issue I think he won on, was border security, because we quickly educated American people that border security means national security. And even the FBI director, the Federal Bureau of Investigations FBI director in the United States agrees with me that our borders have become a biggest national security vulnerability we've seen since 9/11. So we need to address it. I'm glad the Canadian officials reached out to me, the foreign minister and her staff reached out. We had quite a lengthy conversation, and we're going to meet together and put some specific ideas on the table and find out what we can get done quickly. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. I'm looking forward to the work. I think it's going to help both countries. I grew up on the northern border. I grew up just south of Kingston, St. Lawrence River, Lake Ontario. I still have a home there, so I know what's going on up there. I lived there. I fished on that river and lake. I've been to Canada many times, rode to Gananoque in Kingston. I love Canada, and I think we can work together and make that border better than it is right now.
And I think this question is not to take away at all from the increases, for example, particularly around illegal migration that we've seen at the northern border. But I think for Canadians who watched, for example, the campaign unfold and who would agree with your assessment that the border was a central issue, our focus was on the southern border, right? Just because of the volume of, in particular, illegal migration there. But even when you look at the issue that President Trump has brought up around fentanyl, I mean, the numbers are pretty jarring, right? Like, it's 21,000 pounds at the southern border for the year, excluding October, only 43 pounds. Not that any amount is okay, but 43 pounds at the Canadian border. Can you help Canadians understand why it would appear, at least to us, that the incoming administration is trying to treat both countries the same, like threatening the same tariff, for example, on both countries, when there is such a difference at what's happening at the border? Not to say there's nothing happening, obviously, at the northern border, but there is a difference.
There is, and we put most of the research, you can put most of the firemen where the fire is, right? So the southern border has been the biggest issue because of sheer volume. The problem with the northern borders is a significant national security threat. Because after 9/11, there was a study done by the federal government saying it's 10 times more likely for terrorists across the northern border than the southern border, just because very few border assets up there, very few agents. And in the last 4 years, a lot of the northern border agents were assigned to the southern border. So we had very lax enforcement on the border just because we're overwhelmed on the southern border. But again, crossings that we know of are up over 600% in the northern border. And that's what we know about. Because of the crisis on the southern border, agents being pulled to process on the southern border, there are a lot of gotaways on the northern border. People that cross it will know who they are, where they're at. But the president assigned me border security. He assigned me the northern border, the southern border, the maritime borders, and aviation. So I can tell you that the Border Patrol agents under this administration are overwhelmed. I was up there just recently in Clinton County, just south of Canada, right on the border in Clinton County, New York. It's a northeastern part of New York State. Then those agents just overwhelmed. They can't keep up with the numbers coming across. So because of the type of people that come across the northern border, again, from special interest countries that we have a special interest in because there's some relation to terrorism nexus. That's a big concern up there because of who's coming across. Not a lot of Mexicans or Central Americans coming across the border. There's people from countries we have concerns about. That's what makes it very important, and I think easy to fix because we got a willing partner in Canada to come to the table. Can't say that about Mexico all the time, and I hope they can be a good partner. They were during the first Trump administration, not so much during the Biden administration. I hope they get their partnership back. But I think Canada and the United States will work together to fix this border problem. I think we'll work together to make the incoming president happy with the progress we're going to make.
Has there been, in your view, a discernible difference between the way in which Mexico has approached the concerns President Trump raised when he did talk about the 25% tariff and the way Canada has responded? Because you would obviously know more behind the scenes than I do, but on the face of it, I have seen very different responses, right? Canada has already put forward a plan. They want to talk quite frequently with your administration. I haven't seen the same headlines coming out of Mexico, for example.
No, I think Canada's leaning forward, right? They didn't hesitate within 24 hours. President met with Trudeau, And 2 days later, I'm talking to your foreign minister. So they're leaning forward on this, which is grateful. Mexico, they're saying a few things that I like, but they're not coming with what we think we need yet. So there's sort of more work to be done. And talk is talk, but walking is walking. The conversation I have in Canada, I couldn't ask for a better conversation. Of course, actions have to follow, but I'm very optimistic from the conversation I had that we're going to come up with a good border security plan. If not, I'll just call it out that it's not. But I have very positive feelings about our initial discussion. I think they want to address this problem as much as we do because it affects both countries. The fentanyl coming across the southwest border, it's not staying on the southwest border. Some of that's getting to Canada through the northern border. So that's something we can address. So I think together we'll make Canada safer. We'll make the United States safer.
I know you can't speak specifically for President Trump, but I imagine you've had a lot of conversations with him. And I think for Canadians watching tonight, they're particularly worried about the tariffs coming, right? And the devastating impact it would have to our economy. Do you think, in your view, based on those conversations, there is a way out for Canada?
If Canada comes to the table with meaningful changes to the border security, absolutely. That's what the president's all about. I mean, he wants border security. If Canada come and be a good partner with us, I think it's going to go a long ways with President Trump. Again, I can't speak for him, what actions he's going to take and what he expects. That takes that threat off the table. But I'm in communication with him a lot, so he'll be updated on our meetings with Canada. He'll be updated on the progress we make and the plans we develop. I'll be updating him and his staff, so he'll be well informed. Everything I do, he's well informed of everything I do. People I talk to. I already reached out as soon as I got a phone call from the Canadian officials. First phone call I made was down to the transition team, Trump's team, saying, hey, look, just got reached out by Canada. Senator Lindsey Graham here had a lot to do with making that introduction. Already reached out to Senator Susie Collins, who has a senator on the border with Maine and Canada. So we're already pulling those levers. So I will keep the administration, the president's team, updated on everything we do. As soon as I know things, he'll know things.
Just one final question for you in that vein, Mr. Homan, because the one sort of communication we have had from the president over the last number of weeks are social media posts in which he's referencing Canada as the 51st state and the prime minister as the governor. I think initially, when that was first reported on after the meeting at Mar-a-Lago, people here in Canada and the government conveyed to us they thought it was a joke. I think Canadians are worried at this point that maybe it's not so funny anymore. In your view, just to be clear, President Trump, is aware that we're a sovereign country. There's no plans to do anything to jeopardize that. Is it just a joke?
Look, he's aware you're a sovereign country, but, that's above my pay grade. I wasn't involved in that conversation, so I'll let the president speak for himself.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it on that note. Hopefully we can get some assurances otherwise. Mr. Homan, I appreciate you making the time for the conversation tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
So I think that's important to address the northern border, too, because as much as the attention that we have on Texas and the southern border, the northern border is not secure at all. There's no wall up there. There's no fencing. There's nothing. It's just a bunch of trees. I'm looking at some of my videos now of the northern border. It's wide open. It's literally wide open, the northern border. And anyone can cross then. I mean, it's very easy for people to fly in from Mexico to Canada or any other country to Canada and come down through the southern border or through south, from the northern border to the south into the United States from the northern border. Magnolia, we got another clip. We want to take Mayor Adams. Adams was speaking about the New York City mayor because he was speaking with and met with Homan, the guy you just saw, the incoming border czar. And, they have a game plan of how they're going to deal with all the people in New York that cross the United States illegally that are committing crimes. So we're going to play Adams here.
And, these are tough times. We got to make tough decisions. And I have stood in front of you guys, many of you, throughout this entire migrant asylum seeker ordeal, and took great strides to articulate my position, just to wake up the next day and see you write different stories that distort what I've stated. So I'm not wasting my time. I'm being very clear, And I'm not going to spend hours answering your questions over and over again for you already to have your preconceived notions and your distorted views on what I have articulated. We're going to protect the rights of immigrants in the city that are hardworking, giving back to the city in a real way. We're not going to be a safe haven for those who commit repeated violent crimes against innocent migrants, immigrants, and longstanding New Yorkers. That was my conversation today with the border czar to figure out how do we go after those individuals who are repeatedly committing crimes in our city. We're going to tell those who are here, who are law-abiding, to continue to utilize the services that are open to the city, the services that they have a right to utilize, educating their children, health care, public protection, and the things that we have long been proudful in doing so. But we will not be a safe haven for those who commit violent acts. We don't do it for those who are citizens, and we're not going to do it for those who are undocumented. We made terrible mistakes in the past by preventing to keep our city safe from those who are committed repeated acts of violence, particularly these dangerous gangs that we have witnessed in our city, and we're not going to continue in that direction. I'm going to answer a few questions, and then I am leaving, because it's not going to matter what I respond to anyway. You have your preconceived thoughts already.
Okay, first of all, I do not have a preconceived thought. I want you to know that right from the start.
Thank you.
Number one here, are we talking about people who are just charged, or does that, I mean convicted, or does that include charged? And how exactly, if you could give us some specifics, would this work?
Our legal team is vetting. Do we have the authorization to sit down and speak with ICE legal team to operationalize what both our desires are? And once we get that approval, then we will give you a complete layout of how it's going to work.
Mayor?
Yes.
Right here, sir. When you told Mr. Homan, I'm willing to work with you to make sure we're not a safe haven for people committing crimes, he pushed back and say, I'm looking to deport beyond that. I'm looking to deport undocumented people simply because they are documented dreamers, for instance, asylum seeking migrants who have not committing crimes. And what, if anything, did you say about deporting those people who have not done any crime?
He told you he pushed back on it?
I'm asking you, did
okay, all right.
he push back on you saying I want a broader scope?
From what I heard from the incoming head of ICE is that we have the same desire to go after those who are committing violent acts, repeated violent acts among innocent New Yorkers and among migrants and asylum seekers. That's what I heard from him, and I was pleased to hear that because we share the same desire.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good. How are you, Greg?
Good. So, in part of this meeting, you were looking at how to address it and kind of meet the new administration a little halfway here, maybe. However, you guys are going to meet. Part of that conversation, as you've mentioned, Marcia Kramer's show, was looking at executive orders. So, was there any talk about executive orders, and then what would those executive orders entail, and how would they work to kind of address what you had discussed with the orders are today?
I spoke with our my legal team here to look at the powers of my executive orders to accomplish my goals of ridding our streets from those repeated individuals who carry out violent acts of violence towards New Yorkers and towards migrants and asylum seekers. And once we come to a full understanding of that, then we will report on it.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. What did you ask incoming border czar Homan about his plans for his scope for deportation? What questions did you ask him about how far he wants to go with deportations, and what did he tell you?
Well, I think that what has been reported is totally distorted from what our face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball conversation. His goal is the same goal I have. We cannot allow dangerous individuals to commit repeated violent acts of violence in our cities across America. I've said this before, and I'm surprised the way everyone is attempting to state this is a new coming of Eric Adams. I've stated this over and over again, long before this election, that this can't be a safe haven for violent individuals. You have a right, a privilege to live in this country, and those who want to commit acts of violence, they are violating that privilege.
Does that mean, sir, that if you're a
Yolanda, we got to keep it tight. Yolanda, go ahead.
Living in a shelter.
Thank you so much.
Señor Alcalde, buenas tardes. Did Mr. Homan make any specific request from the city in order to work with you in this crisis?
His desire is clearly, again, what my target area is. And what I've learned also from sitting down with him and a representative from the Biden administration that was there in the meeting as well, we have 500,000 children who had sponsors in this country that we can't find. We can't find them. We don't know if they're doing child labor. We don't know if they're doing sex crimes. We don't know if they're being exploited. 500,000 children. There's a level of hypocrisy that everyone that states they want to protect everyone but innocent individuals who are victims of crimes and children. I want to support and protect children and innocent people that are victims of crime. And those who don't understand that, it's not up to me to try to convince them. I know what my job is, my goal is, and I was clear of that while running and when I became mayor. Safety means everything to me. 500,000 children, we don't know where they are right now in this country.
Will New York remain a sanctuary city, and will you do anything to repeal any of the work that the de Blasio administration did to limit interactions with ICE and other immigration officials?
New York remaining a sanctuary city is determined by the city council. They told you what their position is. I'm going to try to attempt to use my executive orders to go after dangerous people who are committing violence acts against migrants and asylum seekers and long-term New Yorkers and undocumented immigrants. No one should be a victim of a crime in the city, and particularly violent crimes. And I said that over and over again. I'm going to continue to stand by that.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if you could detail exactly the kind of cooperation the NYPD will be giving to federal officials in your quest to rid the city of the violent criminals that you talk about.
We need to unravel all of these rules and procedures and laws and all of these rules and procedures. We need to unravel them and get clarity on what we could do and what we can't do. About 170 crimes currently allow us to communicate and collaborate with ICE after a conviction. We need to examine them and see what, again, my authority using executive orders to ensure that I keep New Yorkers safe. That's my only goal. I cannot make it any clearer, you know, and so if pursuing that goal means that my years and years of advocating for immigrants that are here attempting to find the American dream, if that demonizes me, then I'm gonna take it. But I'm gonna save lives in this city.
Mr. Mayor, were approved actually during the de Blasio administration. Do you feel that since it was approved during the de Blasio administration, that you have the authority to enforce them now, to let NYPD officials enforce them with ICE officials now, so that you can begin doing what you just said you wanted to do?
Let me tell you one of the challenges that we're having. Currently, you could have one of these dangerous Venezuelan gangs that are here. They can be in real active investigation into some of the criminality that they're doing. There's a lack of clarity that can we assist in preventing the act from taking place. That just makes no sense to me. And I don't know why we want to ignore the fact that there is, from some of these dangerous Ecuadorian gangs we saw on Long Island, the dangerous gangs that we saw coming from other regions, we have an obligation and responsibility to keep people safe in this city. And all law enforcement should play a role in that. All law enforcement, and we should not handcuff law enforcement for carrying out that job. And I think that this entire narrative has been hijacked. There's a great level of distortion. People are trying to push their own agenda. I have one agenda. I've never lied about the agenda. I've never been, slick about my agenda. Keeping New Yorkers safe. And it doesn't matter if they are documented or undocumented, because some of the criminal aspects in this city are preying on migrants, asylum seekers, and undocumented, and so many levels. And this is not about protecting just certain parts. Everybody, everyone in this city should be protected and should not be the victims of violent crimes. And that was the conversation I had with the border czar. We shared that same belief, and we're going to pursue that same belief. And I'm looking forward to that pursuit. Thank you.
All right. So we heard the latest of what's going on, different angles, Texas, northern border, Tom Homan. Eric Adams said he's working with the incoming Trump administration. I think Adams is trying to get a pardon, personally. All right. Well, I mean, things are going to seem like they're going to change. The border on the northern border is definitely not secure. You know, look at my videos. You'll see for yourself. Not much coverage out of the northern border all like that in the Swanton sector. Never know why, because clearly people are coming in. Texas seems like they're taking the forefront. Will these other states model the same thing Texas is doing? Border shutdown. Stopping migrants. That's the title of this video. We are continuing to cover the border migrant crisis on JLR Investigates. This is a topic we know a lot about. We don't know it all. We also follow these particular people like Adams, Homan, Abbott, Trump. Who else? Newsom. You know, we continue to cover these individuals and see what they're up to. I personally like what Adams is doing in New York. It seems like he's going against his city council, and he's going to do some executive orders and see what he can legally and legally not be able to do. A lot of people have mixed opinions about Abbott, Homan, Trump, Adams. Who else? Kristi, Noem. All these key figures that we're going to see a lot of after January 20th, 2025. For sure. All right, folks. We cover the border 24/7, 365. Let me know what you think in this particular segment. You know I'm on it. You're on it. You guys are paying attention just like I'm paying attention. What's going to happen here? Aurora, Springfield, Ohio. Remember Springfield? They're eating the dogs and cats. What's going to happen out of there? It's going to happen out of Chicago. Maybe we'll talk about the mayor of Chicago in a little bit. I mean, the residents there. If you want some entertainment, real entertainment, and you want some real life fireworks, I strongly recommend watch the videos during these council meetings in Chicago and the citizens going at Brandon Johnson. Brutal. I don't think Mayor Johnson out there in Chicago is going to last much longer. I think his days are numbered. I don't think the aldermen like him. I don't think the citizens like him. I don't know if anyone likes him, except the inner circle that he hired when he cut the police budget and created 200 new jobs for his own people. They're probably the only ones that support him. But it's going to be wild. We're living in unprecedented times, folks. Border. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll talk soon. Take care of yourself. Be safe out there, my friends. Have a good day.